Dr. Sarah Langley, and I welcome you to my May is Mental Health Month, Overcoming During and After the Pandemic Mental Health series. I hope that this has been a blessing to you. I hope that you have found great significant value and great information and tools that you can use to apply accordingly so that you can know how to overcome right now and prepare for after the pandemic. And so today I want to talk about overcoming uncertainty. So we talked about overcoming depression. We talked about what depression looks like. We talked about the symptoms and signs and what you do to help yourself out. We talked about overcoming anxiety, what that looked like, the types and the symptoms, and then how to help yourself out through having anxiety and how to overcome that. So today we're going to talk about overcoming uncertainty and the unknown. So first you have to understand that we are creatures of habit. And part of the reason that it impacts us mentally, emotionally, financially, socially, intimately, because that's another topic that we're going to discuss this week as well. How to help get your groove back. How do you get back to the love life and the sex life that you have had if this pandemic has impacted that area. But when it comes to uncertainty, part of the reason why we may have reacted the way that we have was because, from stealing, or not stealing, I always say stealing, but from taking toilet tissue or fighting over toilet tissue, to now having to hoard and having to stock up and feeling like people aren't thinking about their fellow neighbor. Well, we were being primal. We're in survival mode, and that just happens. We are creatures of habit. So when we lack control, when we lack connection, and when we lack choice, or when we lack, as far as, as far as like being called or having a purpose or a meaning, when those are impacted or we lose sight of that, then that's when we do operate primally. This is when we do operate and try to fend for ourselves, and it's the survival of the fittest. So I always want to tell everyone to please give yourself grace, extend the courtesy to yourself. If you are upset, if you felt guilty, if you felt disappointed in yourself for the fact that you reacted the way that you did, or you handled the matter that you have handled it, or the fact that you weren't prepared or ready for the pandemic, please don't beat yourself up. Tell that to yourself. Now, as long as you don't talk back to yourself, because then that's when you have to come and reach me. But please tell yourself that it is okay. It is okay to not be okay sometimes. You have to allow yourself that space and that grace to get to know or grapple with what is going on, to make sense of it all, and then come up with a plan of action and a strategy to help get yourself out of the situation. So same deal when it comes to uncertainty. First and foremost, not only are we creatures of habit, but because of the fact that of just human nature, when we have question marks in our heads, we have to answer it. Even if the questions or the answers that we come up for the questions are wrong, we still have to have some type of answer for it. So what do? This is what happens. You have to first acknowledge the fact that you have these question marks and that you are looking for an answer. You have to acknowledge the fact that, hey, when it comes to uncertainty, when it comes to the unknown, when it comes to something that's unfamiliar, you have to now find the answer for it. We just cannot leave unfinished business. And because of that, a lot of times I find that we put ourselves in situations that we didn't necessarily have to put ourselves in. And because of that, now we got to figure out how to get out of that situation. And it becomes comfortable and complacent. It becomes an area where we don't want to now get out of what was comfortable, even if it is like functioning in the dysfunction. Because the issue is, a lot of times we want to function in something that we are familiar with, but we just do not like the hardship. We don't like how it impacts us. We don't like how it makes us upset or disappointed or sad or frustrated or mad. But yet, we don't know what the unknown is. We don't know what is down the road. We are uncertain, and we are ones that have to be certain and sure. So we would rather stay. We don't want if we can have the best of both worlds, if we can actually be certain or feel comfortable in this dysfunction, if it doesn't impact us the way that it does, then yeah, we will settle and stay in our comfort zone. But if we don't find ourselves growing or progressing, that is where it becomes an issue, because we are ones who are created to not only be relational, but to be progressive. We cannot either be stuck and we cannot be lukewarm. We can't sit in a certain area. We can either go left or right. We're going to have to either go this way or that way, but we can't just stay stuck and remain stuck, because that's where it can turn into mental disturbances or mental and emotional disorders. It can turn into something problematic. But let me tell you right now, you have the advantage. You can take control of what you can control. A lot of times we're looking at what we cannot control and we want to control that, as opposed to looking at what we can control for the sake of now dealing with the uncertainty, to face the uncertainty. So first and foremost, I just want to encourage you to please give yourself grace and extend the courtesy to yourself. It's no different than what you would do for the next person. Someone that you know who are just going through it and they're beating themselves up and they feel guilty and they feel disappointed that they weren't there for their family to support them financially or to help their family out, or they weren't prepared for this. You would encourage them that, you know what, don't beat yourself up. It's okay. Just get yourself together and now come up with a plan of action of how to help yourself out. I say that to you. Give your own self that courtesy and that grace as well to now deal with the uncertainty, to get yourself together. First and foremost, there's a time for everything. Yes or yes. There's a time to be upset. There's a time to be sad. And then there's a time to get yourself together, to have a plan of action. I find that oftentimes we're trying to now jump ahead because we don't want to deal with the pain. But in this whole ordeal with the pandemic, what you can do is now create certainty for yourself. You can no longer, you can actually change this for yourself where you don't have to stay in uncertainty, but you can now make sense of it all. You can now ask yourself, how is this serving me? How is this supporting me? How is this helping me? What do I need to do to now create certainty for my life during this pandemic? Not waiting, not, ducking your head in the sand and just waiting for this to float by. Because let me ask you, I don't know if you ever heard this before, but how we do anything is how we do everything. So find yourself. Imagine what other situations or circumstances have you found yourself digging your head in the sand? What situations or circumstances have you found yourself avoiding or numbing or pretending or denying or deflecting or distracting instead of facing it head on? The fact of the matter is, when it comes to uncertainty, yes, it may impact you, right? It may have you to be up in arms because it's a question mark that has to be answered. But the only way to really now change uncertainty for yourself is to really now face uncertainty. And how do you do that? I'm going to share the tips with you in 30 seconds. But I wanted to first prep you and prime you to first understand that it's okay to not be okay. There's a time and a place for that. It's a time and a place to unravel. There's a time and a place to get upset. There's a time and a place to be however you be. I want to normalize that. It doesn't have to mean that you're crazy. That's why I put this in your face. This is exactly why I keep calling it. May is Mental Health Month. Overcoming during and after the pandemic mental health series. Because again, we're always trying to avoid this, but the only way that you're going to face it is to face it. The only way that you're going to solve and resolve is to face it. This is your opportunity to do something different, to get different results, and not doing the same thing and expecting different results, because that is insanity. And I have vowed in my profession to not call people crazy, but I don't have crazy and insane people that I work with. So I hope that you make the decision to do something different to get a different result. And here are the few tips that I want to leave with you in regards to how do you now face uncertainty during this time. Again, give yourself grace. Extend that same courtesy to yourself. It's okay to not be okay. Have your moment, have your time to lament, to mourn, and grieve, because this is like a grief. We have lost what we've known. And now we're going into an unfamiliar, uncharted territory. We want to believe, we want to act as if it's going to be normal when everything opens up. I'm telling you right now, it's not. It's not. So here's your opportunity. If you weren't prepared before the pandemic, here's your opportunity to use this pandemic and this time to have it serve you. to now take full advantage of doing the following. To help yourself overcome uncertainty, extend the grace to yourself. Tell yourself it's okay. Have your moment to be not okay. Normalize how you feel. Get to know yourself a little bit more. How you're feeling, how you're reacting, how you are responding to this pandemic, to the loss, to the grief, to what is no more. You need to get to know yourself a little bit more. I just want to invite you to think that way. Get to know yourself just a little bit more. And how do you now use this opportunity to learn? This pastor had told me one time that, you know what, there's no such thing as winning and losing. It's either you win or you learn. We seem to want to avoid what feels, because that's the problem. When we feel like we failed, or we were told, or we came to realize that we failed at something, we therefore take that on as we are a failure. Isn't it interesting, though, that we put more time and energy and vibration into negative things, but understand that its converse is true as well? What does that mean, Dr. Sarah? It means that you can now also take on the attitude of a winner and see yourself as a winner in this situation. We no longer need to focus or meditate on lack and loss and limitation. That exacerbates the uncertainty. We wouldn't want more of the same, or what we left behind as well. We want to leave behind, although there are things that have been great and tremendous for us that we left behind or we lost. There were some great things that we want the bad stuff to stay behind, and we want the good things to go, be ahead of us. But here is how life works. Life works for you. Life isn't against you. It is for you. All I'm doing is just planting a seed. If anything else, in regards to how to overcome uncertainty, I understand that we always want the 1, 2, 3 steps. That's just I'm just different. I'm more interested in doing. I have mantras that I have created in my mindset. This is another tip for you to face uncertainty. What is your mantra that you live by? What is the creed that you have created for yourself? For me, when it comes to this mental health racket, my attitude is to help you to know how to fish for yourself. It's not a matter of you coming to me and me being a revolving door for you. You can have maintenance from time to time, check-ins, but as far as having to always come to someone over and over and over, I would rather for you to know that you have the answer within yourself, and you do. You have survived and thrived and strived, even if you don't give yourself enough credit. Part of the reason why you may not do that is because of how we've been conditioned. That's bragging, that's conceited and all that. But now I change the words up and say, you know what? Be proud, be deserving, be entitled, feel worthy, feel valuable, feel important, because that is exactly who you are. And don't let anyone tell you different. You don't have to compare yourself to other people. You don't have to look at other people's stuff. That's none of your business. Or what other people are doing and how they're doing it. If you just stop to get to know yourself a little bit better, and stop to look at what you do possess and give yourself credit for it, it will make a world of difference in being able to face what is ahead, to prepare for and overcome the uncertainty. So what am I saying? I'm saying that I'm here to make you better than I met you, and to leave you better than I found you. That's my motto. That's my mantra that I tell myself when I show up and counsel and mentor and advise. This is what I'm saying to you on how to help you. I can give you the 1, 2, 3 steps, which I'm about to do. I said that 30 seconds ago, right? Or a minute ago, or 2 minutes ago. But I definitely want to do what my mom used to do. My mom, talk back to me. Have you ever had liver before? Have you ever had liver? So my brothers and I, Lord have mercy, we did not like liver. Doesn't even sound good, right? But my mom made some mean rice. She used to not just saute, but she'll put the spices and everything, like salt, pepper, and whatever else she would do with the rice. She knew we loved her rice, but she knew we do not like any liver. And what does she does with her wise self? She mixed the liver with the rice. And when we would eat it, man, that was good. It was some good rice with liver. What am I doing with you? Every time that you show up for any of these webinar series, any of these mental health, overcoming during and after the pandemic series, if you're getting the 1, 2, 3 steps that you can apply immediately so that you can now day in and day out implement actionable steps that's going to help you to overcome whatever that is that you're overcoming, underhandedly, I'm planting a seed so that you now see, which is the next thing when it comes to uncertainty and how to overcome it, see the power within yourself. You made it through everything else that you didn't think that you could ever make it through. Apply that now. Don't look at it and I used to do this. Don't disregard or diminish yourself and your abilities and your capabilities. Don't play yourself short or play yourself small. Don't say it was luck or it was my mama's prayers, my grandmama's prayers. It was you. Take some credit in that as well. See that you have to feel empowered to be able to face uncertainty. If you don't feel empowered or inspired or you don't feel motivated, all of that, and you're still trying with whatever little bit of energy that you have, you're trying to overcome something. How do you overcome? We always seem as a society to always celebrate those who made it to the top, who rise and shine through hard work, from just extending themselves, overextending themselves. It was at their expense. It was at their detriment. How do you get to celebrate something after being battered and bruised and bloodied all up? And we celebrate that. Look, I celebrate those who were able to stay intact the whole time, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, and they still got to the top. But we will shame that and say that, oh, well, they had it easy or whatever. No, we have a lot of stuff backwards because of how we've been conditioned. I'm here to help to unprogram you, to help start you on the right path of you programming yourself with the right information, the right strategies, the right outlook, the right attitude, the right posture, the right position, the right character. You can do this because you have done this before. You were able to make it through before, even when you didn't know how. So give yourself credit. You can make it through this time. Yes or yes. So how do you overcome uncertainty? Give yourself the credit and the grace and the mercy. Extend that to yourself. Make sure that you acknowledge yourself for what you are doing. You're doing the best that you can. Don't beat yourself up. What is that doing for you? How is that working for you? To still constantly be upset and depressed and sad and, anxious and lonely and apathetic and all of that. How is that serving you? Talk back to me. Is that serving you? Now, here's the interesting thing from a psychological standpoint. It is serving you. It depends on what the end goal is. And this is exactly why we're having this conversation, to change your mindset. A lot of times people who think that way are playing a victim role. They're used to getting and gaining from being pitiful and being a victim. And what's funny is that a lot of times people who say that they're not doing something, they are. I do that a lot. I ain't gonna lie. I'll say, that's not what I was saying, but I don't feel that way. But come on, when we use the word but after we say something, it already nullified the thing we just said before. I'm saying to you that you can do this. You were able to do it before. Give yourself the credit and the grace and acknowledgement that you can do this again. Look at what you do possess. You are powerful. You are strong. And I know that a lot of times people will deflect that because we're more of people who will give as opposed to receive. But all I'm doing, again, is planting seeds for you to start thinking. See, that has always been my end goal for you. If I can get you to think, my God, if I can just get you to think and to think differently, that's when it's a pause or a quiet moment for you to start thinking. Like, you know what? I was talking to a client the other day and how it was quite a few of them that were going through this, but they were saying how, oh my God, I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do this and I can't do that. And I said to them, well, what? You know what? We already know and established what you cannot do. How about tell me what you can do? And as I talked to them the same way I'm talking to you, before we ended the session, they came back and said, You know what? I can't do this. You know what? Well, why can I not do this? Bingo. What I want you to do is catch yourself. See, we're always looking for immediate results. We have been so conditioned for acceleration, for, getting to the next level immediately, fast track, all that, microwave success. But my God, I have learned during this pandemic, y'all could talk back to me, and I thank you all for joining in on this conversation. I really appreciate your time, because you could have been anywhere else, but I thank you for joining me here on how to overcome uncertainty. I'm not interested in just giving you the 1, 2, 3 steps. That's me. I'm interested in making sure that you learn how to fish for yourself, so that if our paths never cross again, and I have done my part for the part that I played in your life at this time, that you will now start to think and catch yourself. That is the best thing you can ever do for yourself. When you have been conditioned so hard on losing, on lack, on desperation, on limitations, you don't even know what it's like to win, to soar, to shine, to write your own stimulus checks. Shout out to Shalina Diva. To be able to not depend on anyone but yourself through the grace of God. You have the ability to do so much. It's time for you to no longer deflect or diminish yourself and what you are capable of doing. Or we wouldn't even have this conversation right now if it wasn't the case. You wouldn't show up right now if it wasn't the case. That this is time. You have to understand that everything's about timing too. When you are ready for something, what they say, the teacher shows up. It wasn't a matter of anyone showing up in your life. Everything have its place. You have mentors, you have advisors, you have leaders, you have people who have been in your life to help you to get to as far as you have gotten. But then it comes to a time that you have to be tested. What have you learned? Remember, there's no such thing as winning or losing. It's more about winning or learning. Have you taken the time during this pandemic to get over uncertainty by way of what have you learned in this? So that you don't go through this again. Let another pandemic happen. But how are you going to handle it differently so that you can get a different result? Man, this is some good word. See, I toot my own horn because I got into a place where, you know what? I no longer diminish my intelligence, or I no longer diminish my capabilities. That's my encouragement to you, is that you have everything in you to shine and to overcome anything and everything. Instead of meditating on what you don't have, what you don't want, or what you feel like you need, meditate on what you do have. That will put you in the advantage, and that will boost up your motivation and your energy and your vibration and your outlook to now attract more of that same. When we're focusing on things that are considered negative, we get more of that. That's just standard and law. That's just honestly common sense. If you're focusing on certain things so much, I had another client who always meditated on fear of death of her child, fear of death of her spouse. And we had to address that. Why are you so focused on that? What is your fascination? And at the end of the day, after the conversation, at the end of the session, she was able to realize what she needed to shift her mindset on. And this is the biggest takeaway for you on how to overcome uncertainty. Shift your mindset. How are you going to look at this differently? What do you want to see happen and to manifest in your life during and after the pandemic? That will start to eliminate the uncertainty. When you start to meditate and focus on what you want to see more of, and that you now put your heart, your focus, your attention on that, you will attract that. You will get more of that. Because truth be told, what you got right now, if you don't like it, guess what? You were meditating on that. You were focused on that, unbeknownst to you, because it was subconscious. All I'm doing today is to bring the subconscious to your consciousness for you to catch what you are doing. When you start meditating or you start, look, I tell you the truth. So you may have heard this before, I'm not sure. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts that run through our head every single day. If you choose not to think the right thoughts, then the law of average will happen for you. What does that mean? It means that you're going to think mediocre. And greatness have no room or no business being around mediocrity. I'm really here to upset you, to set you up right and disrupt your pattern of mediocrity. So that now you start to think different and get different results. And when you do that, that will now put you in a position to now overcome uncertainty without feeling like you need, in a way, I'm kind of working myself out of a job in a way. It's like, so you don't have to feel like, okay, dang, I gotta, underhandedly, I gotta call Dr. Sarah, for some mental health services because I feel crazy. People don't want to admit that. Cool, that's fine. You don't have to admit that here, on the forum of 5,000 Facebook friends of mine, or, on however many people that are living here on this earth. That's fine. But you do have to know that in order for you to face uncertainty, it's time for you to look at yourself. Please stop putting the time on things that really don't matter anymore, that feeds the things that you don't really want to manifest or to continue onward and giving that energy towards it. Rather, put your time and energy on coming to know who you are. That will help with certainty. The goal is to be certain. Establish that goal to be certain. If you want to see certainty and uncertainty after the pandemic, then start focusing and meditating on what is certain for you. What is certain for you? What you can control. So final thoughts, and I'll give you these tips because I know that, y'all had to go through all that through my philosophical way of doing things. Like I said, I'm just different. My thing isn't for you to depend on me on every single thing. Rather, you have the answer. You have been equipped with every provision necessary. You wouldn't go through this. None of us would go through this if a few things didn't happen. One, if we weren't equipped for this, God wouldn't allow this to be. We are equipped for the things that we individually go through. You have to start believing that and start looking back, backtrack. This is why you got to take time to get to know who you are and what you possess, because you possess great things. The second thing is that it was just going so out of order that life has just had to happen to bring things back to order. And that's why you hear a lot of people who would say that, these are the times that, millionaires are born. And, it's like the greatest adversity really breeds great opportunity. It really does. If you really stop to think about it. All this adversity that we have had and we faced, what has birthed out as a result for you? All of this is really the real tips and tools and strategies. I know that you want immediate gratification. You're tired of the pain, but rather, why not let the pain and the suffering serve you instead? That's how you get real control. When you can take it and face it. The only way that we're going to get through stuff is to get through it. Not always going around it, not always hacking it, not always trying to go under it, always trying to deflect and act like it doesn't exist. Rather, use this opportunity, y'all, to take the time to get to know who you are, to give yourself that grace and give yourself that mercy, that it's okay to not be okay sometimes. That, okay, the pandemic caught you with your pants down. Fine. Now it shows you what areas you need to no longer deflect or distract from or act like it doesn't need to be taken care of. That's what's so interesting even today about looking at all these corporations, these big, gigantic corporations, and they were even ready. But they didn't have like a cushion or a nest egg just in case, because we got comfortable. We got comfortable. We got comfortable. We got comfortable in functioning in this dysfunction. We got overwhelmed and burnt out, maxed out, stressed out, and that's why we don't even want to deal with this stuff anymore. I get it. That's why you have to control what you consume in your diet regarding what you take in with your eyes, your ears, your mouth. When it comes to the social media, when it comes to our government. Look, if that's bringing you down, then do things that's going to make you feel good and bring your mood up. You don't have to always be in the know all the time. And trust believe, you know enough people that's going to keep you in the know. So you don't have to always be glued to social media, what's going on, with your friends, with your girlfriends, who you hating on now, who you shading next, who's doing what with who. Is that serving you? How is that serving you? Now here's my last point. This conversation is really for people who really trying to come up after the pandemic, who really wants to deal with uncertainty after the pandemic. So again, sometimes, a lot of times, the dysfunction, the negativity does serve us, because hey, if we have that mindset of being a victim and being pitiful, and we want attention, and we want people to praise us, and we want people to love up on us, then again, that's something going on within you and your character, honestly. And it can be because of, your childhood, your upbringing, what you see, what you experienced. Okay, but you're the age that you are now. You're not a child now. I told that to one of my clients the other day. She's still trying to operate as if she's a kid. But she's a grown woman with a family, a whole family now. And a lot of things that she does, she operates as if she's still in her family of origin with her parents. And I said, sis, you can't do that. I didn't tell her what she can and cannot do. I'm just giving you the digest version, right? Not the Sarah version. I'm like, come on now. You're going to lose your family if you keep trying to bring your family of origin into your family. Perfect segue. If y'all going to make sure y'all don't miss out this week when it comes to, we're talking about family, sex, and relationships this week with the guest speakers that I have. So make sure that y'all go to bit.ly/Power Talk Real Talks so that you don't miss out on those conversations. But the point of what I'm saying is that you have to look at what you need to discard. Take in the meat and spit out the bones. Take in what works for you and what resonates, and discard what doesn't. But be careful about what you are choosing to discard. Assess why you want to discard that. It's because it's an ouch moment. Maybe sometimes you need those ouch moments. Maybe sometimes you need to be stretched and be challenged. We don't need to be coddling anymore or having to be coddled anymore. We're at a different place in a different space if you haven't noticed. So it's time for you to come up and be in the know in that regard. It's getting old and tired. Trying to be caught up in the know of what's happening around you. And you letting life happen around you, but you're not letting life happen for you to help you to now have something to talk about, or to have something for us to now hate on you for, or have something for you to be relevant. Like, you got so much in you. I don't know what the issue is. This is where we can have a conversation. Whether you're like, you know what, I don't want that attention because, yeah, I can be very successful, but I don't want to lose on something. I used to be that way. I was choosing not to be successful for the sake of my family. Isn't that funny? I was choosing to maintain this attitude and this image of where I grew up from and where I'm from, because that was the standard. It didn't fit where I was heading or how I was really built for. It didn't seem like it mixed, or it was a connection. So I would deflect success. I would, to everybody who sees me, it would be like, okay, I'm successful. But I would deflect it because I didn't want to lose. I didn't want my family to think that I thought I was better. I used to hear that a lot. You think you're better. You think you're better and all that. And I didn't want people around my hood telling me that, you think you're better. You think you're better. But then I was like, they're gonna think that anyway, whatever I do. So now I got to do what is best for me. I'm encouraging you to do what is best for you. Check yourself. You don't have to have people to try to check you. Check yourself. And then make the time to give yourself grace and courtesy to come up and get prepared for this uncertainty that's before us. From there, you make sure that you take the time to now normalize how you feel. Get to know who you are, how you're feeling, how you're thinking, how this pandemic can serve you. How can you use this? How can you leverage this to your advantage? Then, this is what you do. I hope you hung out until the end. This is what you do. For you to be prepared for the uncertainty, first of all, tell yourself that, you know what? Sometimes we can't expect things to happen the way that we plan for it to happen. It doesn't necessarily always happen the way that we hope that it would happen. But after saying that to yourself, like I said, number 1, be kind to yourself. Number 2, normalize your feelings. Number 3, get to know your feelings and get to know you a little bit more. Number 4, reflect on your successes. What can you control? What have you controlled? What have you not lost in terms of control? Look at what you can control. Look at what your past successes have been. You were resilient before, you're resilient now. You got through before, you will get through now. Take this time, number 6, develop new skills. Use this opportunity. I know another person who racking it up with degrees, with different businesses. She's making it happen during this pandemic. What are you doing? Put your energy in the right place accordingly. Shift your mindset. Stop to think. Take the time to assess and talk about what you can do. Limit the exposure to news. We already talked about that. Number 7, limit your exposure to what you are taking in as your diet when it comes to your eyes, your ears, your mouth. Please. Everybody's going to keep you posted on what's going on. You do not have to always be in the know with everything. It is time to get disciplined and focused. For real. Number 8, avoid dwelling on what you cannot control. Don't worry about what you cannot control, because that's not helping you. That's not helping to focus on what you cannot control. It's just adding towards the low vibration, the low or the lack of energy to try to keep pressing forward. Be that person that I said earlier. The person who can keep themselves intact mentally, emotionally, physically, and still succeed. Let's start praising that for a change, as opposed to people who lose it all and we're like, well, daggone it, they were really into it. They were really involved because they lost it all. It was at their detriment. It was at their expense, but they got to the top. No, let's change the rules. I have an ebook that's called Combat COVID, Combat COVID, Creating Calm in Chaos. Creating calm in chaos. The beautiful thing out of all this, everyone, is that we can create our own calm. Use this opportunity to see it for what it is. And this is your perfect opportunity to create your reality. Why and how? Because we don't have anything distracting us anymore. Yeah, we found ways, because that's just creatures of habit. But for the real ones here, the ones who are like, you know what, I really want more. I know that there's more out there. I know that this is the prime opportunity to take advantage of it. How do I do that? In my book, I talk about just that. So that in the end, you know how to boost up your energy, help with your immune system, because this is a holistic approach that I talk about in my ebook. How to help with your physical, your mental, and your emotions. Mind, body, and spirit. All the great proven strategies and systems from medical models, all of them chalked up and designated and honed in to make it simple, simplistic, easy to follow tips and strategies that you're looking for to help you overcome during and after the pandemic, so that you can create your reality the way that you desire for it to result. I will put the link in there if you are interested in the ebook. I will put the link in the comment section to add to your arsenal, to add some extra resources to whatever you already have, to make sure that you are fully prepared for what is to come, and to sustain. It's all about sustainability as well. It's not just about getting over, but how do you sustain? So that next time, like I said, you don't be like these big corporations who, for the life of us, they needed some bailout because they weren't prepared. Rather, make sure that you write your own stimulus checks. Be in position to write your own stimulus checks going forward. Make sure that you put yourself in position that you're able to not just get through and overcome uncertainty during and after the pandemic, but that you sustain yourself so that when the next happens, it will be as if it never happened for you or to you, because you are just fine, you and yours. That is what this is all about. That's how you overcome uncertainty during, right now, and after the pandemic. So please, if you found value into this video, not just tag and like it, but share it, because sharing is caring, and you never know, you just might save a life. I thank you for your time. This is Dr. Sarah Renee Langley. Please make sure that you check out other mental health series that we have done and what we are doing, so that we can make sure that you are overall holistically whole and mentally healthy. Thank you for your time. Y'all take care.